I don't believe I'm here by mistake. I've always believed that everyone who crosses my path for a reason. I'm not superstitious, I just understand how God works. I also have a sense of humor. My wife's tired of it, that's all right. But I'm going to give you a little bit of that. My dad, who recently passed away, had been asked by the doctor who delivered me if indeed he wanted the birthmark on my leg removed. Then, that mark was about the size of a quarter. And Dad said, no, leave it there. Well, later on, my mom had asked him why. And Dad's reason? He told my mom this: if ever there is a war and he's killed, they'll be able to identify the body. Of course, now this birthmark is the size of a paper dollar. And so I would like to remind all of you here that if ever there's a war here in St. Louis, and you find a smoking heap of flesh with a big brown fuzzy mark on it, that was me. All right. Hope Dad heard that. I know he did.
Sense of humor.
Lord, I just turn myself over to you that they hear the message that you want them to hear. Romans 4:7. God, who gives life to the dead and calls those things which do not exist as though they did. And Jeremiah 1:5 that spoke of God saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. That this is the God who brought me into this world on June the 7th, 1957 at 2:24 a.m. And my parents named me. And names have meanings. Your names have meanings. And I looked into this subject. I went down to Barnes & Noble and bought a name book. And my name is Andrew Miles William, being a confirmation name, McDonnell. And it is defined in that book as this: a manly warrior, a merciful soldier, a protector, who is the son of the ruler, or the Don. And Revelation 3:12 reminds us that God writes His name upon us as we accept His Son. And so then now, I am a manly Christian warrior, a merciful Christian soldier, a protector of God's, a son of the ruler, the living and eternal God, who is, who was, who is to come. And so when we take on God's Spirit, our names have new meaning. Now my mother, who was a good woman, when I was a boy, made me kneel at my bedside and pray every morning. And I've got things to do, Mom. I got friends waiting for me. I don't need this, but I did it. And it was, she made me kneel by the side of the bed. I had to go through this, I'm telling you. And she was bigger than me, so there was no fighting back. But one such prayer that had been seared into my soul was the angel's prayer. And I'm going to repeat that. Not that I need to look at it to read it, but I will. Angel of God, my guardian near, of whom God's love commits thee here. Ever this day be at my side, to light and to guard, to rule and to guide. And I'm going to tell you, guard that angel did. And I'm going to give you a small story about that. There was a winter day, and I had a younger brother named Jason. Now, Jason was 8 years younger than me, and I got to tell you, he was like the Gerber baby. You know, this was a pretty baby. I still tease him about it, and I was 10, and I would walk home for lunch every day. We didn't have money for school lunches, so I walked home. And I remember I was eating my tomato soup and sardines or whatever happened to be on the menu that day, and watching Walter Cronkite on the black and white television, and my mom told me to watch my brother. She was going across the street to make a phone call. We couldn't afford a phone, so Mrs. Hammerly across the street had a phone, and that's where Mom would make her calls from. Mom left. I had a tendency to stare out windows when I eat. I still stare out windows. A car pulled up that morning, a convertible, and a woman jumped out. A large woman with big hips and thyroid-looking eyes. And she was running towards the door that I was looking out of. Later on, we found out from neighbors that she had been circling the neighborhood all morning. She ran to the door, was running for the door with a look on her face that just spelled abduction. And sitting in that chair, or it was a bench, we had a picnic bench in our kitchen, I felt two hands under my arms pull me up. And I heard a voice, and I don't know if I heard it in my mind or if I heard it audibly. I was too young. And it said, "Stand up." And I did. And it said, "Lock the door." And I bolted to that door and locked it, and that woman made a turn and headed to the front door. I shouldered that front door, chained it. She was pushing against it, and the chain saved me. The neighbors seen her and yelled at her. She ran, jumped in her car, and took off. The police took my story, but my mother and I knew that my angel saved me, the angel that God gave me, and that she still had her voice. I was not, as a child, the description of the name that I have. I was short, shorter than my classmates. I was introspective, self-conscious, very uncoordinated, often picked on, seldom picked for anything, yet my mom and dad loved me very much. But one thing I want you to take a note of, spiritually, I was afflicted with end-time dreams. And I did not know what they were. Not knowing any Bible prophecy, not ever reading the Bible, I would have dreams quite often. I would wake up at night terrified. Just terrified. I couldn't get back to sleep. The second chapter of Joel speaks of before Christ's second coming.